Here's Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz with her latest insight.
I haven't heard of a corporation bonus more than $1,000 so far, which, by the way, is tax. So it's not $1,000.
But in 2011, Wasserman Schultz was up in arms over the payroll tax cut, tweeting this. House GOP refused to extend payroll tax cut yesterday. Senate passed Bill 89. $10, $40 per paycheck. Tweet what hashtag $40 means to you. Sheldon Wolf is the founder and CEO of SpellX, a software development company based in Tampa, Florida, and he joins us now with his reaction. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I get excited when I find $20 in my husband's jeans when I'm doing the laundry. So tell me what a $1,000 bonus that you're giving to your employees means to them.
Well, when I told them about it, they were very surprised. Some of them were shocked. Some of them had a few tears in their eyes, or their eyes welled up with tears. Everybody was really excited. Everybody was happy. Whether their political tilt was towards the right or the left didn't matter. That was $1,000 in their pocket, and they were delighted.
So how many bonuses did you give, and what was the amount?
Well, the amount was $1,000. The bonuses only went to full-time employees, and there was 26 of them.
So you put on the checks that you gave, I understand, that this you actually said that it was for the Trump tax cut and Jobs Act. Why did you decide to do that when you gave the checks out?
Well, I give my employees lots of different bonuses. They get monthly, not monthly, they get quarterly bonuses, annual bonuses, Christmas bonuses, karma bonuses, special bonuses. So I like to describe what the bonuses are all about. However, I don't usually put them right on the face of the check. So doing that was to emphasize that the reason they got $1,000 was because of the new tax plan that was passed by President Trump and Congress.
So what do you make of the Democrats calling that check crumbs?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a joke. And when you think about Nancy Pelosi, who I guess started it, a person who's worth, what, $40 million, $80 million, coming from a state where 1 in 5 people are in poverty, and then saying this $1,000 that 3 million employees are getting is crumbs. I mean, it just doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah, I understand a lot of your employees are millennials or young people who aren't so into politics. Right. I think it's interesting that you put that on the check. Maybe they'll have their own opinion about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Pelosi calling it crumbs. Thanks so much for joining us. It's very insightful, and we hope other small business owners take a cue from you. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You got it. Democrats blasting the president over his immigration plan. So do they actually want to make a deal, or are they more interested in dividing America? We're going to ask Corey Lewandowski ahead. And is Facebook as addictive as cigarettes? One CEO thinks so, and he wants tech to be regulated, just like tobacco. Is more regulation the answer? We've got Kurt the Cyber Guy coming in to break it down for us next.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation fee?
I'm so sorry. This just is not
What we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana.com, the better way to buy a car.
The finest luxury items from the world's top designers, including Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Cartier, and hundreds more. All at up to 90% off retail, and each authenticated by our team of experts. Real luxury, unreal value, only at The Real Real. Shop now and get 20% off with the code REAL at therealreal.com and in our New York City store.
For millions of baby boomers, there's a serious virus out there that's been almost forgotten. It's hepatitis C. 1 in 30 boomers has Hep C, yet most don't even know it. Because it can hide in your body for years without symptoms. And it's not tested for in routine blood work. The CDC recommends all baby boomers get tested. If you have Hep C, it can be cured. For us, it's time to get tested. Ask your healthcare provider for the simple blood test. It's the only way to know for sure.
The state of the economy, taxes, immigration, our union. Neil previews Trump's address and breaks down the issues facing our nation. Today on Cavuto Live.
It's time to shine a new light on home security. Introducing Spotlight Cam by Ring, a motion-activated security camera.
You guys lost?
With powerful lights and an alarm.
We was looking for Jimmy.
180 degrees of advanced motion detection. Smart alerts to your phone.
I have you on camera, you need to leave.
So you always know what's going on. For smart security in every corner of your home. Available at ring.com and these fine retailers.
Hydro moisture or microhydration? Oh, hey, for my hair, should I go pomade or gel?
The blue one.
Oh, is this good for razor burn?
Those guys don't know what you need. I do, and I'll bring it right to your house.
Is that my wife?
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
Get a DSC starter set for just $5. Join Dollar Shave Club today.
When we love someone, we want to do right by them.
What is this?
But habits are hard to break.
Honey, where are the habaneros?
And then there are things we can't control, like snoring. Now the answer is right under your nose. Introducing Theravent Anti-Snore Strips. Clinically shown to reduce snoring with the power of your own breathing.
Nice try.
There are always things that are hard to let go of. Now, snoring isn't one of them. Theravent. The answer is right under your nose.
They're gonna drop a bomb inside that courtyard. 45 seconds. 25 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds.
Chain of Command. New episodes, Mondays at 9 on National Geographic.
So what do Facebook and cigarettes have in common? Well, one CEO says tech today is so addictive, it should be regulated like tobacco.
Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff calling for government regulation of tech giants while overseas in Davos, Switzerland.
But is this regulation a good idea, and would it actually work? Kurt, the cyber guy, breaks it down, is here with us now to break it all down. So, Kurt, count me as skeptical anytime someone starts talking about regulating.
I would
especially on the internet.
Never in a million years would I have raised my hand or even thought about it, about the government reaching their hand in again in our lives for regulation, especially when it comes to the internet, technology, social media. And I was really surprised at the World Economic Forum to see this actually come out in front and center, whether it's Salesforce CEO. So he's saying, look, all of the social media that's going on right now, we can tell, has some detrimental effect.
Well, it's designed that way. I mean, the former employee is saying it was created as a tool and he actually says it's ripping apart our social fabric.
That's one of the former employees. So by the way, we're just now starting to hear from these dissenters who used to be employed by a lot of the social media companies, especially Facebook. Even Sean Parker, their former president, has come out and said, look, in the beginning, in the roots of Facebook, it was designed, we didn't care about, it wasn't a priority that human or humanity would be a focus here. Our priority is getting as many people clicking as much as we possibly can without much regard to what that meant.
And
overall.
Starting as young as possible. I mean, all of us know if you take your teen's phone away, you know they're addicted.
Or yours.
We have a poll here. Hold on. Let me put this poll up, right? Americans divided on this. 49% there should be regulations for online news content. 47% websites should provide news however they choose. So kind of split down.
Yeah, this is a Knights and Harris poll that was done. And I find it really interesting that we're even polling this because, and then when I saw the results, I went, wait a minute. There is not a chance in God's green earth I would have raised my hand to the idea of regulating Facebook.
Are you?
But why are you raising it now?
Think, like, you know what? You can't argue with how Facebook and social media and technology has some really incredible ways of bringing us together. And it's also got the dark side, the detrimental side of tearing us apart or creating an environment where if you have baited America and you've baited the world to say check it as much as possible and get yourself, without this you'll have no self-esteem, there's a giant part of the population that buys right into it, hook, line, and sinker. And that's not good.
But isn't it still my right to choose what I want to see?
Yes.
And when the minute you start regulating, you really get into murky waters about, well,
I'm on the same page with you on that. I don't think anyone should tell me what I should look at, how I should get access to it. Fact of the matter is, this debate is up.
Sounds like parents need to step up. It sounds like it's a parent thing.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Personal responsibility.
We got to leave it there. I'm not sure my teenage daughter agrees with you about that regulation thing. Coming up, Democrats crying obstruction as President Trump last reports he tried to fire Robert Mueller. But wasn't the investigation supposed to be about collusion?
We'll talk about it with Corey Lewandowski and Tom Fitton next hour. Don't go anywhere.
Democrats don't care about you. They want to run on DACA. They don't want to solve DACA.
When the Democrats don't have substance on their side, they scream things like racist. When you look at this, they have nothing to stand on, which is why they're losing.
That super secret FISA memo could be made public right before the president's State of the Union speech on Tuesday.
It's explosive. It's one part of so many more pieces of this puzzle.
At least 40 people are dead and 140 others hurt after a suicide bombing overnight in Kabul.
Maxine Waters is giving her very own State of the Union response to the president.
Another huge day for stocks with new record closes all around.
America is open for business, and we are competitive once again.
We got boats. We got big boats.
That boat, all those boats just make me think of Hayward, Wisconsin in the summer.
Not right now, though. In Hayward, Wisconsin, there's not a river or a lake that isn't frozen over. So if you're looking at we got a boat show in the plaza later on in the show, and we'll get you kind of teasing the fact that in a couple of months,
that makes me miss our boat. My brother-in-law has a couple of boats down where my family is in South Florida, and it would be a fine day to be on a boat on the water, but we'll take the second best, which is to be on a boat in New York City in the middle of Midtown.
Or on a couch in New York City looking at boats.
But fortunately, we get to be here talking about the massive amount of news from immigration reform to FISA memos to the president in Davos and every European CEO living them. We got to bring in Corey Lewandowski, chief strategist for America First. Corey, I got to get right to this. The president has put a legislative framework on the table. It is double what Democrats were asking for in the beginning. Now they're calling it a racist ransom note. What do you make of this planned framework, and what do you think is with Democrats who should be saying, I think, to themselves, hey, this is pretty good?
Well, the Democrats are never going to support an election day or an election year plan that the president puts forward, no matter what it is. They were obstructionists when it came to his tax plan, which is now we see the fruits of that. We see all the companies reinvesting. And when it comes to this immigration framework, what the president said very clearly is, let us build the wall on the southern border because we're a sovereign nation and we want to keep criminals out. That's very important to us. And if we do that, and if we end sanctuary cities and we get rid of this visa lottery system and we end chain migration so we can control who's coming into the country, we'll look at the 1.8 million people who are already in the system here and have a potential path to citizenship over a 10 to 12-year period. But there is no path to citizenship without the wall. I thought the Democrats wanted to bring more people in. They wanted to let people into the country. They wanted to make these people citizens. But when the president proposes it, their answer is, let's stop. This isn't an acceptable solution.
Corey, you're right. So the President Trump came out and said not just 800,000, but 1.8 million DACA recipients or dreamers may get a path to citizenship. Not good enough for Nancy Pelosi. Here's what she had to say in response to this proposal.
the president put forth a plan. That plan is a campaign to make America white again. They are changing the character of our country by what they are putting forth. They bring a tear to the eye of the Statue of Liberty, and they bring fear to the hearts of people who are here playing by the rules.
So, Corey, you just want to make America white again.
You know what I want? I want everybody to see that clip because Nancy Pelosi wants to be the next Speaker of the House. And if the Democrats have their way, they will take back the House and she will be the Speaker. She is so out of touch with reality right now. She lives in a sanctuary city, a city where a beautiful girl by the name of Kate Stanley was killed by an illegal alien who was deported 5 times. Let's build the wall on the southern border. Put $25 billion in. Let's build the wall, which is what the president's promised, to keep killers out from coming into our country. I think it's a very fair thing to do.
Well, Corey, conservatives will say, you ran against amnesty. You ran against a pathway to citizenship. This is giving away the farm on the opening bid. What do you say to that?
Well, I do think you have to be very careful and understanding where the opening bid is. I think it's a lot of people. 1.8 million people is a lot of people to be talking about. Look, this is triple what the Obama administration had proposed. Candidly, we don't know how many illegal aliens are in our country. We don't know within a few million. And supposedly there's 690,000 DACA recipients that would have qualified. Let's find out where this is. But the most important component is you have to end chain migration. You have to stop the sanctuary cities. You have to end this visa lottery program. And you have to build the wall on the southern border. So there has to be some give and take, but you have to get those things done first and foremost.
But let me jump in here, Corey. So why isn't the conversation, when you talk about that number and conservatives upset about 1.8 million, this differs from 1986 and Ronald Reagan, which was amnesty for 3 million, 4 million that came out of the shadows and applied. This is targeting specifically these dreamers, targeting specifically the children that were brought here illegally and giving them what Democrats want. Why are they not Democrats saying, okay, this is what we want, but we have a problem with this? Why aren't they at least willing to say, okay, this is a starting point?
Because the Democrats are obstructionists. They don't want to actually talk about real issues. Because if they did, they would come to the table. They would say the people who came to this country through no fault of their own is what their argument is, because their parents brought them in as children, should be the first ones, because they didn't do anything wrong, to have the opportunity to become a citizen. And what the president has now proposed is looking at a very selective group and having a conversation about them. We haven't decided what that's going to be, but by having a conversation. The Democrats' first response is absolutely not. We don't want to do this, because they have no interest in actually having a policy about anything other than stopping the president's agenda.
Corey, I agree. You know I'm Hispanic. I look at this and I think a lot of Hispanics are going to be really angry at the Democrats. They had 8 years to solve immigration. This is border security was always the sticking point. He's saying, solve the immigration, solve the border problem, and you will get twice the number of Hispanics on a pathway to citizenship. I think this is a really tough deal. I think this is going to expose the Democrats for who they are, that they just want to run on DACA. They do not want to help these kids stay here. They're using them.
Rachel, we're going to see it very clearly over the next coming weeks. And I hope the president talks about this during his State of the Union speech on Tuesday night. It gives the president the opportunity to go right back to the American people and say, crying Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are really good at these sound bites, but they don't actually want to govern. And this is why Washington has been broken. This is why the American people sent Donald Trump to Washington, D.C. to actually get things done, which is to build the wall on the southern border. Let's get it done for a change. Let's stop talking about it.
Corey, moving on to another big topic. The stock market set yet another record yesterday, up 200 points. The economy continues to move forward. Companies continuing to give bonuses, and the president in Davos, with even the New York Times had to acknowledge a warm reception from international leaders, recognizing that this president has kickstarted the economy. Do you think at any point he will get the credit that is due for the policies that have really, to say it again, kickstarted our economy?
The mainstream media doesn't want to give this president credit, but every time that those individuals at the end of their month open up their 401k and they see that their number is up, up, and up, what we've seen is almost a 50% increase in the stock market since his election. 44% is where we are right now. $7 trillion in new value since the president has been elected. These numbers are phenomenal. They're the greatest in a lifetime or longer. And the mainstream media doesn't want to give this president credit. Look at all the companies that are reinvesting, that are giving their employees bonuses or increasing their hourly wages. That is real money in the pockets of real people. And again, the Democrats want to say it's crumbs. They want to say $1,000 doesn't make a difference in people's lives. I don't know where they live. I don't live in San Francisco, but in New Hampshire where I live, $1,000 is a big difference in people's lives.
Right, Corey, we were just showing on the wall all those companies. Just real quick, what does it say that all of Europe's leaders were skeptical and criticizing the president as he headed to Davos? But then when he got there, every major European CEO, from Volvo to Anheuser-Busch InBev and the like, were praising him hand over fist. What does that say?
This is quintessential Donald Trump. You know, when you don't know him and you haven't had a chance to meet him, it's easy to criticize him. Then you meet him and you realize how gracious he is and how warm and friendly he is. He wants to bring those businesses to the United States. He told them we now have a competitive tax plan for the for corporations operating in this country, which puts us in a global marketplace much more competitive. He says, come here. We are the greatest country in the world. We want your investment. We want you to be here. We are open for business. And what that means is more jobs for our country, more jobs for our citizens, and more opportunity. And those international corporations are looking at what Donald Trump has done on the corporate side and on the tax side and saying, we want to invest in America for the first time in the last 9 years.
Corey, you can almost set a watch on his foreign trips. The New York Times is going to drop something on the Friday during that trip to change the conversation. More recently, it was the new nugget that was not a new nugget because we knew about it in June, that they alleged that President Trump wanted to fire Bob Mueller and potentially instructed his staff to do so, even though there's a lot of muddy waters about what actually happened. It looks like they're trying to build an obstruction case potentially through the special counsel, making the case that he wanted to obstruct the investigation into so-called Russian collusion. Well, Senator Richard Blumenthal was on another network talking about this and was fairly blunt. Take a listen.
There's a credible case of obstruction of justice against the President of the United States. And what we're seeing, in fact, extraordinarily, is obstruction of justice, in a sense, unfolding right before us in real time with the actions and statements that he's making. He has no right to misuse the powers of his office, to intimidate witnesses, to fire prosecutors, to withhold documents or destroy them. And that is a very clear line that evidently he doesn't respect.
Corey, this is an important point. They've moved on from collusion because, as you've said time and time again, there is none. But they moved on to obstruction, and it looks like they're building both a public and private case to make that.
Look, it's been very clear the investigation has been going for a year. There is no collusion. There was no collusion. And the only campaign that colluded with someone to get information from Russia was the Clinton campaign. So that's what they should be looking into. So now that the narrative doesn't work anymore, they want to try something else. For Senator Blumenthal to insinuate that Donald Trump has destroyed documents which he has no proof of, and that he has potentially, according to unnamed sources, had a conversation about whether he could fire or not fire Robert Mueller, has nothing to do with it. Look, the president has the prerogative to have a conversation about anybody. There was no actionable incident here. He has said very publicly he is not going to fire Robert Mueller. I don't think he should fire Robert Mueller. So whether these conversations took place or not are almost irrelevant. But for Senator Blumenthal to say that he has clear evidence of this is a candid lie, and he should be held accountable for it because it's not true.
All right, Corey, thank you very much for weighing in. We got to leave it there, but you mentioned those Democrats. Thanks, Corey, for joining us. Coming up, I hit Capitol Hill to talk to those Democrats, find out whether they would trade the border wall for a deal on DACA.
Great question.
Things that I don't think is the absolutely best.
President started out talking about a big long wall. That's not practical.
So do Democrats really want a deal? More of that ahead.
That'll be interesting. Plus, outrage growing over those explosive text messages from anti-Trump FBI agents. Now a new poll shows voters they want a special prosecutor to investigate the FBI itself. Tom Fitton says
memo and should scare everyone.
The FBI under fire first about that FISA memo, which allegedly details surveillance abuses.
This on the heels of the newly released pro-Clinton text between two FBI agents, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And now voters think a special prosecutor should investigate the Bureau.
Here to react to all of this, President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, who I see very often in the mornings. Tom, we've talked a lot about this. What do you say this morning?
Well, it's no surprise that a lot of Americans want a special counsel. What's surprising about the poll, I think it's a Rasmussen poll, is that a lot of Democrats want a special counsel to figure out what the FBI and DOJ was up to with respect to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and Donald Trump's investigation. And it's no surprise, given the text messages that have come out, given the concerns about the memo, as Dan Bongino was mentioning. And so it's well past time for a serious investigation of what went on at the DOJ and FBI. And the dirty little secret is this is about the Mueller operation. It's because a lot of the activity that took place at the DOJ and FBI under the Obama administration formed the basis for the Russia collusion investigation, as it's being termed, which is being pursued by Robert Mueller. In fact, the guy at the center of the text messages, Peter Strzok, was there as soon as August of last year, as recently as August of last year, and Mueller fired him and didn't tell anyone why he was fired and removed from the investigation. You know, Mueller has some ethical issues and ethical conflicts that need to be resolved, and the American people wanting a special counsel into maybe some of the investigations that led to his own criminal investigation related to Russia collusion ought to be very interesting.
Tom, you mentioned two things, a poll, first from Rasmussen, and then also those text messages. We're going to get to both. So the poll that you mentioned is ask this question: should there be an independent investigation into the FBI? 49% of Americans agree, only 31% disagree, 19% not sure. That means, as you said, it likely cuts across party lines. You also mentioned these text messages that have been so revealing about bias inside the FBI. This one we'll put on the screen is from February 25th of 2016. Lisa Page texts, "One more thing, she," meaning Hillary Clinton, "might be our next president. The last thing you need is going in there loaded for bear. You think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than FBI?" Peter Strzok says, "Agreed. I called Bill and relayed what we discussed. He agrees. I will email you," and redacted the same. So the question for a special counsel is, does this reach the bar of a special counsel, or could this properly be investigated internally? Do you believe it requires a special counsel, or could Jeff Sessions and DOJ handle this?
Oh, I don't think the agency should be investigating themselves. A special counsel obviously is going to work for the Justice Department. I want to know why these agents are still at the FBI.
Yeah.
Lisa Page worked for the #2 at the FBI, who's still there, Andrew McCabe. And it looks like they're talking about not using sufficient FBI resources and purposely withholding FBI resources and pulling back in order not to get Mrs. Clinton angry. And it explains why the FBI investigation was half-baked and ridiculous.
Tom, we've got to go. We're almost out of time. But real quick, yes or no answer. Will appointing a special prosecution to investigate this reestablish the trust in our institutions like the Department of Justice? Will it help?
Well, if there are prosecutions, it will help. But if it's an investigation that goes nowhere, then no.
All right, Tom Fitton, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Tom. Welcome. Appreciate it.
Still ahead, remember the high school football coach fired for praying on the field? We've got a big update on his legal battle. That's coming up.
Plus, conservative students furious with this radical professor for creating an Antifa group on campus. Now they want him fired. One of those students joins us next to let us know if they've made any.
Monkeys escaped from the biggest zoo in Paris, forcing it to go on lockdown. The zoo warning the monkeys are large and potentially aggressive. Wildlife officials believe 4 remain on the loose, while 48 have been captured, thankfully. It's unclear how they got out in the first place. Rachel?
Thanks, Griff.
Thank you, Griff. College Republicans reacting angrily to a Stanford club called the Campus Anti-Fascist Network. And the professor who founded it says the name of the group evokes the name Antifa, which is behind several violent attacks in the United States.
So what do they want to happen? They told Fox News, quote, Professor David Palumbo Liu should either disavow the organization he founded due to its apparent ties to domestic terrorist activity or resign. Anna Mitchell is a student at Stanford and professor in the Stanford Review founds a group called the Anti-Fascist Network. He says, though, this isn't Antifa, this is just anti-fascist. What do you say to that?
Well, I think if any professor tried to start a campus alternative right network and claimed that it was not affiliated with the alt-right, that he would be laughed out of his seat.
So it's a fair comparison. So you're saying he's just playing word games so that he can disassociate himself with an organization that has been associated with violence.
Absolutely. And I think his actions have proved over and over again that he doesn't really stand up for free speech on college campuses.
What do you say to people who might say to you, look, you're just not practicing what you preach. You want to ban them from existing. And we know that conservative groups are always upset about, you know, conservative speakers being banned or even conservative groups being banned. How would you respond to that?
Absolutely. I think this is a really subtle point. We absolutely never want the university to fire a professor for his political views. That would be a huge violation of his freedom of speech. But we do think that professors, as representatives of universities, which should stand for the peaceful exchange of ideas, should have the discretion not to become ringleaders in a group known as a domestic terrorist organization.
Sure. So it's a fair point. The professor shot back in an op-ed in the Stanford Review, writing this. He said, "We purposefully did not name ourselves Campus Antifa Network because we understand the distinction between those two words. We named ourselves the Campus Anti-Fascist Network to claim an alliance with the anti-fascists who fought Hitler and other fascist ideas." So he's trying to thread the needle and say, we're in for resisting Trump, who we compare to Hitler. Effectively, that's what he's saying. But we don't want to carry clubs out. And is that a differentiate and beat people? Does that differentiation work for you?
Not quite. In his blog post, he said that he supports self-defense against fascists, but not quite outright violence. But the problem is that the definitions of self-defense and fascism that have been provided by these groups are so broad that they could really be used to construe any conservative presence on campus. For example, anti-fascists stockpiled firearms at a Ben Shapiro talk at the University of Utah, claiming that he represented fascism. I also believe that if the professor truly wanted to peacefully resist things like doxing online, he would create an organization called the Campus Anti-Doxing Network or something to that effect, not the Campus Antifa Network, which to most reasonable people Campus Anti-Fascist Network, which to most reasonable people is going to connote Antifa.
Yeah.
Right. And to be clear, DHS has said that the activity of Antifa is considered domestic terrorism. So it's worth noting, and it does send a message to conservative groups. Anna, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Right. And, you know, there's all kinds of stuff happening on campus that people like you are bringing to our attention. So
thanks for being aggressive and forward-looking. Yeah. We appreciate it. Anna, thanks. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. All right, coming up, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North going back to the front lines, I mean, why would he not, for a new mission with our biggest ally in the Middle East.
We've been treating Syrian civilians for almost 5 years already, and they come to the fence and we meet them there and give them medical assistance.
I am officially envious of what the Colonel got to do here. He is here with what he found and the impact from the Trump administration next.
And remember the high school football coach who was fired for praying on the field? Well, we've got a big update on his legal battle coming up next.
That's why I'm keeping the faith.
We are back with a Fox News alert. The Taliban claiming responsibility for a suicide bombing overnight in the capital city of Kabul. At least 63 people dead and 151 others injured.
Officials say the attack attacker driving an ambulance packed with explosives through security checkpoints, detonating the bombs when police recognized him. The area is home to foreign embassies.
This attack coming 1 week after the group's deadly siege of a luxury Kabul hotel, killing at least 25 people, including 4 Americans. Here to weigh in, Fox News military analyst, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Colonel, good morning. What's your reaction to this?
Good morning, Griff, Rachel, Pete.
Good morning.
What's your latest reaction to this attack?
You know, Griff, you and I have been covering this thing out here, and Pete as well, now for 17 years. And I repeated exactly what I told the last administration. The Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Haqqani network are not going to go away until they have no safe haven left. And their safe haven is a place called Pakistan. And if Iran has their way, there'll be another safe haven to the west of the country promoted by Iran for Hezbollah. So Hezbollah is rapidly becoming the express delivery service for opium. And so you look at those kinds of problems, it calls for something different as a strategy than throwing more Americans into the fight as U.S. Marines and soldiers in fixed bases. Look, the killing season hasn't even started yet. Yeah. It's got 3 or 4 months more of winter out there, and it's just going to get worse in the springtime. Pete?
Absolutely. No, it's a complicated situation. We could talk about it quite a bit. I know the administration's focused on it. But right now, we can tell that you're in Jerusalem, you're in Israel. What has brought you there?
Yeah. Well, this was our Freedom Alliance annual trip to the Holy Land with Inspiration. And when I got a call from some friends in the IDF saying, hey, how would you like to go to Syria with one of our units? I just couldn't turn them down. So that's what I sent you.
Well, in fact, we want to show that here. Take a look at what you shot.
Kobi Marom is a reserve officer in the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF. One of Israel's security concerns is the growing role of Iran in neighboring Syria. Colonel Maron took us to Israel's border with Syria to show us why.
It's a struggle between Israel and the Iranian regime. They try for years to create some challenges along this border right here to bring the Hezbollah and other terror organizations to create some challenges and escalate the situation.
Israel maintains strong points and observation posts all along its borders with Lebanon and Syria. But there's one military outpost with a dual mission: defend the homeland and help the victims of the bloody Syrian civil war. Major Y took us to an Israeli army unit on the Golan Heights engaged in what they call Operation Good Neighbor.
We've been treating Syrian civilians for almost 5 years already. And they come to the fence and we meet them there and give them medical assistance and evacuate them to the Israeli hospitals here. And we are fully committed to giving as much humanitarian assistance as we can.
The unit commanding officer, an IDF lieutenant colonel whose face we cannot show, took us to where truckloads of food, medicine, clothing, and relief supplies are gathered and surreptitiously delivered by the IDF to a medical field clinic the IDF constructed in Syria.
For better than 16 years, we've been covering this long war in this part of the world. This is the Syrian border. And inside this area, protected by the Israeli Defense Forces, you're going to see something we haven't covered yet, but it should be.
The IDF brought us to this medical center. It's staffed and operated by Friendships, an American humanitarian relief organization. Terry Shields is the site manager for this remarkable facility that very quietly, without fanfare or chest thumping, treats and cares for hundreds of sick and injured Syrian civilians every day. I asked Terry what she needs most at this austere facility.
We need doctors, we need nurses, we need volunteer medical staff.
Colonel, great piece. I just want to point out that we didn't see any Syrians on camera there being treated. Why is that?
Well, because they did not want their faces to be seen in Syria. They're going back into Syria, further back into Syria. They're in Syria while they're being treated and protected by the IDF, of all things. Stuff most people don't know about. And when they go back home, they would be targeted for being collaborators, simply for trying to get a sick kid some medical treatment, or maybe a blanket, or perhaps cold winter clothing because of how cold it is out there. And we were mighty cold when we were out there. You know, I got tongue tangled while I was talking to him. Look, this is one of the best good news stories to come out of the conflict that's gone on for over 6 years inside Syria. And the bravery of the IDF troops who do this in the middle, well, surreptitiously was the word I was told to use, surreptitious deliveries, and the amount of protection that they give to that camp reflects great credit on them and the Americans who donate to this cause and who are staffing that hospital.
Well done, Colonel. A story that, you know, most of the wider Middle East would never know. Israelis defending that border. We see a wall there, and we've heard it's quite effective there, but also helping those coming to that wall in need of help. Colonel, thanks a lot, and stay safe there. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel.
Semper Fi.
You got it.
Semper Fi. Turning now to your headlines. Terrifying moments for a father robbed at gunpoint by a suspect disguised as a mailman. His 9-month-old son sitting in the car. The robber forcing the man into his Philadelphia home as 3 more thieves run inside, stealing $5,000, an iPhone 7, house, and car keys. Officers believe the victim, a professional poker player, was targeted. He suffered minor injuries and the baby wasn't harmed. They're still searching for all 4 suspects. A high school football coach refusing to back down in his fight for religious freedom, Joseph Kennedy, who was fired from his assistant coaching job in Washington State 2 years ago after leading his team in prayer, now vowing to take his battle to the high court after a circuit judge rejected his appeal to get his job back.
Where does it leave me is hopefully the Supreme Court, you know, somebody who actually hear the case that I have a fair shot with.
The school district claiming Kennedy acted as a, quote, teacher with a duty to the district and not as a private citizen. Tiger Woods making his first PGA Tour cut since 2015. The often injured Woods now 1 under at Torrey Pines. 1 stroke above the cut line in just his 2nd event since his DUI arrest. Phil Mickelson in the mix at 6 under par, and a great moment after accidentally hitting a fan with one of his shots. Mickelson signing a glove for the fan, writing, quote, next time, duck. I think that's what Reagan said, right?
Sorry I didn't duck. Yeah,
right. Something like that.
Well done, Phil Mickelson.
That's right. You never know. In fact, we got to toss to Rick. Hey, Rick, duck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it kind of fits. That boat's right next to your head there, Rick.
I'm actually on the boat.
Oh, you are?
Oh, you are. We couldn't see that
I'm
from
on
the
shot. Boat. I got to figure out why the boat shows in February or January. This must be like when you go to the store right now, you can only buy shorts because they're like moving on to the next season. We're already talking about boats. We'll figure that out in just a few minutes. Right now, let's talk a little bit of weather out there. It is rainy across a lot of the central part of the country and down across parts of the deep south. Get ready for a big washout today. We'll look at some localized flooding from around Galveston Island, where we've seen some flooding concerns this morning, down across parts of Louisiana. That's our big problem. In towards the northeast and northern side of that system is bringing some rain showers across the Ohio Valley, interior sections of the northeast. That'll spread tonight across the coastal areas. Down across the southeast, you've got a great day across the Carolinas and into Florida. Tomorrow, that rain moves your way. You see all the rain across parts to the deep south. Behind that, a little bit cooler. Oklahoma City at 59. Overall, not looking that bad. All right, they took my maps away, so I guess your weather's done. Send it back to you inside.
No more maps.
That's how they wrap you. That's how they do it.
Nice. Don't fall off the boat. All right, Rick.
Right.
Thanks. Coming up, I hit Capitol Hill to see if Democrats would trade the border wall for a deal on DACA.
If I can get protection for dreamers, I am prepared to do some things that I don't think is the absolutely best.
The president started out talking about a big long wall. That's not practical.
So do Democrats really want a deal? More of that coming up.
Democrats say that.
Sure it was. I mean, look, remember when the first deal came down, when President Trump brought a bipartisan group to the White House, what emerged that the White House rejected was a deal that reportedly had 57 people supporting it. So that is at least 7 Democrats that come over. Now, in 2.0, Senator Manchin from West Virginia is the first Democrat to say, all right, I'm on board. I want a wall. We got to do this.
Not true. Didn't Gutierrez also sort of hint about that as well?
More in
but he's in the House.
In the House. So I hit the Senate. So I went and talked to Democrat senators. Here's what they had to say if they would get on board. Senator, could you support a wall? Your colleague Joe Manchin says he could support a wall. Could you?
You know, I don't think that's the best way to spend money. But look, if I can get protection for dreamers, I am prepared to do some things that I don't think is the absolutely best. I think the president, I hope he'll trust his own border security professionals. We're willing to vote for a very robust investment, and I trust them to determine what's the best way to spend it. So
we have always supported border security. If you look at comprehensive reform, that was a lot of money into border security, and unfortunately it got turned down by the House of Representatives. But it's clear that border security is something we've discussed for a long time.
And a wall is a part of that.
There are already walls that are a part of it.
The president started out talking about a big long wall. That's not practical. And in fact, DHS is not recommending that this is going to be sea to shining sea wall. They've got a great plan, and I can support the plan that DHS has put forth.
Could you join your colleague Joe Manchin in supporting a wall, heavy funding for a wall?
Oh, I think that has to be part of the negotiation.
When we hear trade the wall for a full path, that's not where we are.
Where we are is still trying to find a path to increase border security and make sure that the Dreamers continue to make valuable contributions to our country.
I know what I would support is a limited bill with DACA and an element of border security in it. And hopefully it could be balanced so that the House would accept it.
Senator Manchin, I was just speaking with some of your colleagues, and I asked them, I said, could you join your colleague, Senator Manchin, on supporting a wall? And I haven't gotten anyone yet to do it, but are you having any luck in talking with them to bring him to where?
I mean, we're going to have border security. I think everyone in that room realizes we're going to do border security. It just depends on what does the final product look like.
The Democrats, you got to get the Democrats on the wall.
Well, I think, you know, everyone has a different feeling on that, but I think everyone's supporting border security. If they think that they can do border security when professionals are telling you, you got to have so much more wall, then they're fooling themselves.
It's interesting because earlier in the week he said some people will call it a wall, some people will call it border security, but let's face it, if we're going to get a deal, there's going to be border security. And by the way, Tim Kaine said to you, I don't think I like a wall, but I trust border security experts to say whether it works. We had a border security expert on the program earlier, someone you've met with personally. And he said, yes, the wall works. And that's a good piece.
Well, that's the difference is the president says a wall. And we've heard Washington talk about border security for a long time, which could mean the wall or it could mean a cop-out, which is the concerns of some of the supporters as well. That'll really matter when it comes down to the final debate. Great work, Griff. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. All right, President Trump pushing his America First message during his big speech in Davos. So how did he do on the world stage? We're going to ask Nigel Farage just ahead. Very interesting.
And are you dreaming of hitting the water on a brand new boat? Well,
for the 6th year in a row, boat sales are up in the U.S. And if you're thinking about hitting the water like I am, when the weather warms up, now is the perfect time to start looking for the best boat to fit your needs. I'm going to tell you about mine.
Yeah, here with some great options, Carrie Wabel from Discover Boating. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's great to be dreaming about summer right now here in January. Tell us about Discover Boating.
So Discover Boating is a website that's an unbiased expert source to get you started in boating. So before you start the buying process, you go there and learn about what kind of boat is right for you.
So January is probably the right time for it, right when the boat show is going on.
Absolutely. So we have boat shows going on around the country right now. The Progressive Insurance New York boat show is here, but you can find a boat show anywhere, and now is the time to shop so your boat can be ready for summer.
And that's why you're going to let me keep my favorite boat of all time. I have no lie. I'm so excited about this. The Wake Center. Talk to me about the boat, so that because when I came out, I've surfed behind them many times. You see actually a wakeboard up there surfing behind it. I've used my own personal surfboard. My family lives in Florida, full disclosure. Tell me about this one. That is a brand new one I'm going to keep.
Brand new model. Yep. So that's the Malibu Wake Setter LSV. It's 23 feet, and it's made for wake surfing. So actually on the back of the boat, you see the SurfGate technology, and that creates waves that you can actually control with the touch of a button on your wristband.
While you're surfing?
While you're surfing.
While you're surfing.
So I'm behind the boat, I'm surfing, and I want to switch my wave or change my speed or listen to my music. I touch a button while I'm surfing. Or while you're surfing, Gray.
To not complicate it, but basically the hull of the boat fills up the ballast to create the wake behind it, so that when you're surfing behind it, all of a sudden it's putting all that ballast out.
Exactly, and it's taking the wake and creating a perfect wave.
And you control it on your wrist.
And you control it right on your
for
wrist.
the low price of $130,000.
Starts there.
So if you don't want to buy a house with that money, you buy the boat.
Or play the lottery.
Here's another option that we're standing on right here. This is the Everglades 253cc.
Yep, so this is a center console fishing boat. Everglades is an awesome brand that really gets you out on the water to fish and have fun with family. You see all this cushioning, it means that you can use it for both purposes. You've got all, Griff has
I look good back here, don't
all
I?
the electronics he needs at the helm, fish finders, GPS, everything you need to get out and fish anywhere you want.
Okay, and now this is also a lot of money. There's a starter
This starts
boat.
at $150,000.
So if you're like, I think that sounds amazing, but I don't have that kind of money.
Okay.
You can still get into it for something more like a car.
Absolutely. So this is the Bayliner 190DB. It's a deck boat, and you can see it has lots of seating. It's an excellent starter boat. It's just under $27,000, which works out to a $200 a month payment.
Not bad. Can you water ski?
Yeah.
You certainly could, yeah. See the pole in the back of the Bayliner there? So you could put a ski back there. You could even surf behind that. I mean, that outboard engine Mercury would make a big enough wave, but you can't control it like the wake setter back here that I'm going to take home.
But you make a good point, because you get started there, and as you get more into fishing or boating, you move on up.
Well, go to Discover Boating to find out everything you need about boats, and you can find a boat show near you. The Arc one is going on right now.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
And thanks for letting me keep that boat. Still ahead, Maxine Waters isn't just boycotting the president's State of the Union address. She's giving her own. And guess who's back? Abby Huntsman is stopping by the carving couch. Get excited. And she is bringing her beautiful baby girl, Isabel. Aw.
The White House has released their offer for an immigration deal.
Trump was about illegal immigration and getting our hands around it.
That plan is a campaign to make America white again.
The Democrats don't care about you. They want to run on DACA. They don't want to solve DACA.
When the Democrats don't have substance on their side, they scream things like racist. When you look at this, they have nothing to stand on, which is why they're losing.
I thought the Democrats wanted to bring more people in, but when the president proposes it, their answer is, let's stop. This isn't an acceptable solution.
That super secret FISA memo could be made public right before the president's State of the Union speech on Tuesday.
Donald Trump has constitutional rights too. The government was unleashed on him. That memo is going to frighten Americans.
At least 40 people are dead and 140 others hurt after a suicide bombing overnight in Kabul.
Maxine Waters is giving her very own State of the Union response to the president.
Impeach 45! Impeach 45!
NFL punter surprising a group of fourth graders after they helped raise money for his charity.
Come down to Minneapolis and get to do the NFL experience with me.
Great song.
We made this request last weekend.
We didn't get it, and now we got it, and we're seeing that Griff and Pete actually have a little Latino in them. They're trying. Come on, Pete.
Loving it. Well, just being subtle.
You do love this song.
It's a fantastic song.
Great song.
You suggested it last week and got it in my head all weekend long. They didn't play it last weekend. Boba, thank you very much.
Actually, in full disclosure, he was already dancing because he loves the legislative framework the White House has put out on immigration, and then the music came in on top of that.
It's all on top of it.
Yeah.
You know, we're obviously this morning we're talking about the proposal put out by the White House on Thursday, which has had everyone talking ever since on both sides of the ideological spectrum. Before we talk about those two sides, let's lay out what the White House is proposing in its initial proposal, which will come out in more of a legislative framework on Monday. They say the deal should look like this. $25 billion for border security on our southern border, as well as internal enforcement. They talk about eliminating the visa lottery program, which the president has talked a lot about, curbing chain migration, limiting it just to immediate family members as opposed to the current system, which seems almost endless. And then finally, they talk about a pathway to citizenship for 1.8 million Dreamers. That one, I'd say, was probably the biggest surprise for people on both sides of the aisle.
On both
Conservatives
sides.
saying, wow, citizenship, and 1.8, and Democrats saying, wow, that's a lot more than we expected.
Than we ever offered, by the way, than we ever offered Latinos. This was a better, more generous offer than Democrats have ever offered the DACA recipients. So you'd think they'd be really happy. But here's what Nancy Pelosi has to say about it.
The president put forth a plan. That plan is a campaign to make America white again. They are changing the character of our country by what they are putting forth. They bring a tear to the eye of the Statue of Liberty, and they bring fear to the hearts of people who are here playing by the rules.
This is remarkable to me because as someone that covers this legislation in Washington all week long, every week, every day, it just seems that Democrats have chosen to resist instead of even accept it. And that's why we had on earlier, Corey Lewandowski. Now, Corey, helped the president get elected, but he's also helped to push as many things as he can on tax reform and now on immigration. I said, are you frustrated that Democrats won't even consider it? Here's what Corey said.
I thought the Democrats wanted to bring more people in. They wanted to let people into the country. They wanted to make these people citizens. But when the president proposes it, their answer is, let's stop. This isn't an acceptable solution. Nancy Pelosi wants to be the next Speaker of the House. And if the Democrats have their way, they will take back the House and she will be the Speaker. She is so out of touch with reality right now.
So, Rachel, I mean, you just want to make America white again.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to bring in almost 2 million more Hispanics and other nationalities, and we're making America white again. This makes absolutely no sense. But I'll tell you this, as a Hispanic woman, and I hope all the Hispanics that are watching right now get this. If you ever wondered why the Democrats couldn't put together a deal in 8 years that they had the House, and at some of those points, you had the House, Senate, and the presidency in the first few years of Obama's administration, if you ever wonder why they couldn't put it together or why Obama took out from under Marco Rubio when he was trying to put together a plan, and then President Obama jumped in and did a DACA that could be, no certainty. This is giving you certainty. It's increasing, doubling the number. They don't want to solve this. They are using Hispanics. They want to run on DACA. They want to use identity politics. They're so afraid of Donald Trump and the Republicans being the ones to actually solve not just the situation for the DACA recipients, but also the problem at the border that started this. Because if you get immigration off the table, they lose this racial thing they want to run on. And they also, I think, open Republicans up to looking at the Republican Party as a potential place that they could be.
How does that help
as an
them?
option.
How does that help them in 2018, though, when Democrat voters say, "What did you give us? Like, give us something."
I know.
And DACA is what the White House said. Look, we want a wall, so we're going to let Democrats give their voters, Hispanic voters, DACA. And not only are we going to give them DACA, we'll give them twice what they asked for.
It's not clear they ever really wanted a resolution, just like it's clear they don't want a resolution on the southern border as well. Well, Brandon Judd, who knows a lot about that southern border, was on our program earlier, and we asked him, how critical is fixing that southern border as it pertains to this deal? Take a listen.
we have to have the physical barriers, which is going to be expensive. We know that, but we also have to end the loopholes of catch and release, and we can't do that unless we have the number of judges. We have to remove the magnets that are drawing people to cross the border illegally, which is exactly what this plan is calling for, which is why I believe this plan is going to work. What you're seeing is you're seeing the brilliance of a businessman that we elected into the office of president, which is exactly what we expected to see and exactly what we were hoping to see. When you look at securing the border,
the question will be what happens going forward. This is either a brilliant opening bid where he's put Democrats in a corner. No, but conservatives have legitimate concerns. Sure. We're talking about citizenship for 1 million more people than they thought. I think there needs to be a trigger in here. If we don't get the wall first, the end of chain migration first, the end of visa lottery first, then you don't get a DACA deal for illegal immigrants. Because what's happened in the past is you get all the amnesty and you get all the promises for border security, and then somehow the Washington swamp finds a way to choke it out. Even a trust fund can be raided of $25 billion. So you better be careful about how you do it, because there's a lot of people that want to undo it.
Well, if there's one person that the American people trust to build a wall, the builder president, and somebody who's willing to take the heat and all the racist arrows that are thrown at him for taking on border security, it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump made a brilliant move here. He has backed these Democrats into a corner, and now their true colors are showing. They don't want to help the DACA recipients. And I hope at the State of the Union, because all these Democrats, they're bringing in DACA recipients and dreamers to make their point. I hope that the president speaks directly to them and say, the people that are sitting on this side of the aisle do not want to give you a deal, because that's what you see right now. Their true colors are so exposed. I think they're going to lose Hispanics on this, because you got people like Gutierrez, you've got people like Manchin, honest brokers who really want to help these kids go. Of course.
Kane. Senator Kane saying, you know, I'm willing to do things. But
I think the president also knows he could lose a lot of base support if he goes too far as well. So he's got a balance that he's got to make to strike the kind of deal. And that's why he's in the seat that he's in. But we want to know what you think. Friends@foxnews.com. Absolutely. What's your take on the proposal so
There's
far?
another story, though, that I think people should be paying attention to after the State of the Union, probably mid to late week, is the release of this FISA memo. We've seen a lot of talk about it.
We saw release the memo.
We saw Stephen Boyd, the Assistant Attorney General of the DOJ, sent a letter to the House Intelligence Committee saying, don't do it, don't do this, don't do this. We've seen, obviously, the minority chair of that, Adam Schiff, saying this would be absolutely outrageous. But I think that in the name of transparency, the American people have shown that they're interested enough to see let's have it.
This is a result of the work.
The Democrats, by the way, saying they're going to put their own memo out.
Well, the memo that we're talking about right now, though, is Devin Nunes' memo, the chair of that committee. They've done a lot of work looking at these FISA warrants. How did they get there? What's in them? Whose names are in them? And what could tell us about the surveillance that President Trump has talked about for almost a year? Dan Bongino on the program talked about what could come from this memo. Listen.
You know, that memo is going to frighten Americans. The Obama administration used police state powers to spy on Donald Trump. That's not in dispute. What's in dispute is how it happened. And how it happened is what's going to be likely detailed in this memo and should scare everyone.
My husband's actually seen that memo. He can't tell me what's in it, but I will tell you this, that his phone lines in his congressional office are blowing up with people saying, release the memos. There is a big public demand for,
you know why?
For
Because
to
Sean
see it.
Duffy is not a leaker.
He's not a leaker.
He's not a leaker.
To me.
There are some
and
good guys.
And I begged, and he said, I can't.
Give me some information. But I think it's great that we're getting this transparency, especially on this moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, turning now to your headlines with a Fox News alert. The death toll now rising to 63 in a Kabul suicide bombing overnight, making it the deadliest insurgent attack in Afghanistan. The Taliban claiming responsibility for the attack that happened in an area home to foreign embassies. Fox military analyst Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North joining us in the last hour with this warning.
The Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Haqqani network are not going to go away until they have no safe haven left.
This attack coming 1 week after the group's deadly siege of a luxury Kabul hotel, killing at least 25 people, including 4 Americans. The man who killed the NFL running back Joe McKnight in a road rage fight is found guilty. A New Orleans jury convicting Ronald Gasser of manslaughter, clearing his name of second-degree murder. Gasser admitted to shooting and killing McKnight from his driver's seat back in 2016, following a 5-mile chase. The shooting sparked protests after deputies decided to release and not immediately charge Gasser. Sentencing is expected in March, where he faces up to 40 years in prison. Hillary Clinton now responding to a report she protected a 2008 campaign aide after claims of sexual harassment. The New York Times reporting the so-called faith guru Burns Strider kept his job after being accused of inappropriate behavior with a young staffer, a female staffer, who later resigned. Clinton tweeting, quote, "I was dismayed when it occurred, but I was heartened that the young woman came forward, was heard, and had her concerns taken seriously and addressed," end quote. Years later, Clinton was still posing for photos with Strider. More proof that President Trump is making America win again.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning.
FedEx raising wages, giving out bonuses, and increasing pension funding. Employees will get $200 million in pay increase and performance-based bonuses. FedEx is just the latest company to announce benefits as a result of President Trump's tax reform. And those are your headlines. By the way, I've been getting texts all day from friends and tweets of what they're doing with their bonuses. So it's happening all over America, not just the companies you're hearing about. It's happening in small town America.
That's right. Breadcrumbs are adding up.
That's right.
All right. Well, President Trump sending a big message to the world and their world leaders in Davos.
America is open for business, and we are competitive once again.
So, how will the world respond? We're going to ask Nigel Farage next.
And it's one of the most iconic symbols in Philadelphia. But the city's mayor is putting the Rocky statue on the line for the Super Bowl. What? What happens if the Eagles lose? You'll find out.
Heartburn hits. Fight back fast with Tums Chewy Bites. Fast relief in every bite. Crunchy outside, chewy inside. Tums Chewy Bites.
Who can help you undo the damage done by fire or water? Search no further than the experts at Service Master Restore. We help people go from disaster to done. Service Master Restore.
Everybody has sunglasses, but most sunglasses just make everything darker and are useless when it comes to blinding glare. Not these. Nick Bolton here with the latest from Bell & Howell. We call them tack glasses. Inspired by the sunglasses worn by our heroes in uniform, tack glasses can do things no ordinary sunglasses can do, like block blinding glare so well, invisible objects suddenly become visible. Enhance colors to give you vision as sharp as an eagle's and survive even the harshest conditions. Look, ordinary sunglasses just make things darker, which could be deadly in a tactical situation. Tack glasses improve optical clarity so you can see clearly even in low light. If you've never seen how this light filtering technology works, check this out. Nothing to see, right? But look again as we hold up our tack glasses. A colorful American eagle is revealed. Amazing.
Take a look at the screen.
Yes.
What do you see?
I see a plain white screen.
It's just a plain white screen. Now look up through our sunglasses.
Whoa, this is cool. How does it do that? That is so awesome. What? Oh my. Whoa, what? That is so cool. That is amazing. How does it do that? It's like an eagle pops out of nowhere. Very, very cool.
Whether you're on the trail or on the golf course, on the water or on the slopes, with tack glasses, you'll always see clearly without any glare. There's just nothing like it on the market today.
Act now to get your TAC glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. Plus, every pair of TAC glasses comes with our Bell & Howell lifetime guarantee. But wait, order today and we'll also include a blank card that reveals our American Eagle when you put on your TAC glasses. So don't delay. Order yours today.
To order, call 1-800-594-8441. Again, that's 1-800-594-8441, or order online at trytacglasses.com.
Got a stinky sink? Stop drain odors, backups, and clogs with the cleansing and deodorizing power of Sani-Sticks. Now with a new lemon fresh scent. Drop in one and you're done. Just one Sani-Stick a month dissolves over time, flushing foul odors with a powerful blend of concentrated enzymes and lemon oil that break down and eliminate food, grease, and grime buildup, keeping your pipes clean and odor-free and your home smelling lemon fresh. Stop embarrassing drain odors and get Sani-Sticks now in lemon fresh, original unscented, and other great scents. Now available at most retailers.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115.
I will always put America first, just like the leaders of other countries should put their country first also. But America first does not mean America alone.
President Trump pushed his America First agenda in Davos on Friday.
So how did the rest of the world respond to his big speech?
Joining us with his reaction, former UK Independence Party leader and Fox News contributor Nigel Farage.
Good morning, Nigel.
Good
morning.
morning.
Oh, we couldn't see you.
Well,
Sorry about that. Welcome.
Yeah, okay, you got me. You've got me.
So, Nigel, could you have asked for anything better from an American president on that world stage?
No, I mean, in theory, Trump going to Davos should be like Daniel going into the lion's den. You know, all these people have been completely negative about him and his presidency. And what did he do? He stood up there. He gave a calm, reassured, confident speech, but he also started to explain why the American economy is outperforming everybody else. He talked about deregulation. Of course, he talked about tax cuts. And the reaction was stunning. You know, we had Lloyd Blankfein, one of the biggest Goldman Sachs bosses in the world, saying there was a lot more in the speech I liked than I didn't like. We had Sir Martin Sorrell, the boss of WPP, one of the biggest advertisers in the world, saying, well, it was such a good speech, maybe Trump's going to do better in the midterms than everybody thought. So I think yesterday he began to make people perhaps rethink the economic model, because we in Europe and across much of the West are obsessed with regulation upon regulation and the idea that all countries should have the same rules. And what Trump talked about was competition, giving people incentive and bringing jobs.
Well, Nigel, he also talked about free nations. His message was free nations on common goals, right? And that's why you saw European CEOs from Volvo, Adidas, Anheuser-Busch, InBev coming out praising what he's done here and bringing it there as a common goal. But yet you saw European leader after European leader criticizing and heaping further skepticism. It reminds us of what Democrats are doing back home.
Well, of course, because the leaders of the European countries are trying to build a new state called Europe, based in Brussels, run by bureaucrats, and Trump pretty openly attacked bureaucrats, attacked people who make laws who aren't directly accountable. And we'll find out more on this because he did an interview with Piers Morgan, which will play on UK television tomorrow night, and I guess Piers will have asked about these things. So what you saw were the politicians who want to take democracy away and replace it with bureaucracy. They didn't like it, but the important thing is that business liked it. Business will think a lot about what he said, and I have to say, a lot more businesses, in my view, will invest in America on the back of it.
That's a great point. I mean, bureaucrats like to talk about common goals, but it's ultimately competition that's going to change that dynamic in Europe and maybe get them back onto the ledger of relevance. Nigel, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Nigel. Thank you, Nigel. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but not when it's hidden from the public for 13 years. Could this photo of President Obama roll? Politico reporting he's getting bored in the House. Ellison made headlines earlier this month when he endorsed an Antifa handbook that he says will strike fear in the heart of President Trump. The death toll now rising to over 60 in a suicide bombing.
Thanks, Rachel. Making that attack the deadliest insurgent attack in Afghanistan this year. The Taliban claiming responsibility for the Kabul attack overnight that's injured 150 others. So what does the rising violence in Afghanistan mean for the United States and our presence in the region? Our guests here to react, the president of Security Studies, Jim Hansen, and the president of the Washington Strategy Group, Joel Rubin. Joel, you're at the State Department. Jim, you no stranger to counterterrorism operations. I want to get both of your reaction. Jim, you first to this latest attack in Kabul.
It shows that there are no safe havens in Afghanistan, and unfortunately, there still are safe havens in Pakistan, which is why President Trump cut off aid to that country. For too long, we were just shoveling cash at the Pakistanis while they played a double game with us, allowing the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and everybody else to cross the border, refit, retrain, and get ready to come back in the country and cause trouble. We need to see if Pakistan now is going to look at that and decide that they want to be on the side of helping the Afghan government stand up, or if they're going to stay with the terrorists. That's going to be the real key.
Joel, your thoughts on this?
Well, Griff, first and foremost, this is a horrible attack. It's devastating to watch the number of civilians that get killed. And we need to be very firm in our view and our approach and response to this. But it doesn't mean that the attack came from Pakistan. It means that we need to first and foremost understand what is driving this terrorism. And we currently do not have a diplomatic approach that engages Pakistan, the different parties, the warring factions inside of Afghanistan to really resolve this. You know, we've been at this for nearly 17 years. You think by this time we would have a real clear idea of how to fix this situation, which is critical for our national security. The current policy is only seeing a worsening of these types of attacks, however.
That's a good point. It's been 17 years. But let me move on to just another topic, and that is what we originally wanted to bring you on this program for, and that is breaking down the president's immigration plan, right? I mean, this deal is a legislative framework, but it's pretty clear what it is. It's more than double what Democrats were asking for in terms of DACA. It includes, of course, the wall, the White House saying that you know, no wall, no DACA deal. Jim, let me start with you. Are Democrats simply showing their hand that they just want to resist in the face of actually accomplishing something for Dreamers?
You know, the president is not going to give them a better deal. This is more than they had a right to expect, because they decided to take him on and play a game of chicken, and he smoked him like a cheap cigar when they shut down the government. You know, I guess even Chuck Schumer wasn't crazy enough to want the Democrat slogan for the midterms to be illegal immigrants over U.S. citizens. They need to look at this, accept the fact that he made a goodwill gesture, and if they don't take this, the American people will see where their priorities are. Well, and the American people want border security.
And Jimmy, you mentioned Schumer. He tweeted, you know, that this flies in the face of everything that the American people want. But Joel, I ask you, what do the Democrats want?
Well, Griff, immigration is American. It's apple pie. Look around. Find me an American who doesn't have some family roots coming from somewhere overseas or south of the border. We need to have an approach that includes American values, and currently we don't. And building a wall, for example, is part of a deal. That's a budget-busting boondoggle. $25 billion that Americans, you and me and our children will have to pay for. President Trump on the trail said that Mexico will pay for it, and that's not going to happen. So we need to get real, and if we're going to get real, we have to have a different, comprehensive approach to immigration. Currently, this is piecemeal, and this is really using Dreamers as an extortion tool for getting a wall that the president knows Mexico won't pay for.
Well, we're going to hear a lot about it next week. It continues. Jim Hansen and Joel Rubin, thanks, guys, for coming on, and thanks for changing topics just a little bit in the wake of that terrible attack in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Griff. Still ahead, Maxine Waters isn't just boycotting the president's State of the Union address. She's giving her own. Plus, John Kerry reportedly telling Palestinians, don't give in to President Trump. Is he meddling in Middle East peace talks again? Lifelong Democrat Alan Dershowitz is here to react.